Good morning. Hello.
Morning.
You made it to Friday. Oh boy. Welcome, welcome. All righty. We'll stall for a courtesy minute. Some of you know my usual approach here. What can I tell you about? So for the holidays, my friends and I, we give each other like fidget toys. That's our thing. Yeah. So we have our friends gathering and then we just exchange fidget toys and just sort of rate them collectively and decide which ones are the best. I don't have this year's fidget toys are still on the coffee table, but last year, this golden snitch spinner, oh, so good. It's like really heavy. So if you have anything like this on your desk around you or anything, let's see it. Anybody have a fidget thing? I also have finger strength. Gotta just be working out all the time. Serena, what have you got? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Great. Love it. Hannah. Okay. You've got a spinner. Yep. Yep. Jack's got a cat. It counts. Okay. Oh, Emma's got, yeah, I love those. I was just playing with one of those at a museum the other day. Like museum gift shops are so fun and they always have really good fidget toys. Okay. Well, next class, bring your favorite and share. And thank you for stalling a bit. I think we will get started. Looks like most of you are Zoom veterans by now, but I'm just giving a little check. If I mute you, it's not personal. I just want to make sure you're not listening to your favorite song or someone's talking to you, etc. So looks like you're all good. I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. And we're going to get started here. So I do post the slides right before class in Canvas. Today we're just covering syllabus and I have like a little mini lecture and an activity. So if you want the slides at any point, they are available to you in Canvas in Module 1. But welcome to Interaction Design and Usability Testing. This is a course for anyone who is interested in learning more about UX career paths, whether that's UX design or UX research. I will talk a little bit about the course at a high level, but first I want to just do a little bit of introductions. So I'm Dani Green, for those of you who don't know me. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm the only remote faculty member in the DBOS organization at CGU. So I'm in Salt Lake City. I'm on Mountain Time, but I usually naturally translate everything to Pacific time. If you're ever unsure, let me know. I am also a Claremont Graduate University alum, class of 2016, and was in the cognitive psychology program at that time. And I've been doing UX for 10 years now. I run an organization which you'll hear about often called the UX Researchers Guild. We put on a lot of free events and things like that. So sometimes I post about that in Slack. And I'm just an independent contractor. So I work for myself, and that means I work for lots of companies, lots of different types of organizations. I've done a lot of work with startups, a lot of work with businesses that are growing really quickly from startup to gonna be a big boy one day. And then I've also worked in and am currently working in global enterprise B2B, business to business software. Right now I'm working for a company that makes 3D modeling software for businesses. And I've done a lot of e-commerce as well. So lots of examples in class are e-commerce, which is you're buying a thing on Amazon, you're buying a thing on your favorite online store, and hardware as well. A little bit about me. I've got some AI generated icons here at the bottom. I love a good sci-fi anything, sci-fi books, sci-fi film, all of it. So many sci-fi references come out. Fantasy too, but sci-fi is kind of my jam. I live in Utah, so I have to ski. It's law. Not really. I play the cello, and I like hiking, walking, and being outside in general. So with that, I'd like to learn a little bit about all of you. I want to go around, and we're going to do this popcorn style. So this is a really common thing for remote teams, remote working, where popcorn style just means I popcorn it over to somebody who hasn't gone yet. And the way we tend to keep track of that is everybody will use the raise your hand gesture. And then as you go, your hand will be unraised and we'll just sort of check everybody off as we popcorn around. I want you to answer these questions. First, please pronounce your preferred name. If you have a nickname or something, pronounce your preferred name and pronounce your last name for me. Then I'd like your preferred pronouns. Mine are she, her. Year in school, what program you're in, and then what do you do for fun? What do you do to recharge? Some kind of hobby or what you do to just like stay centered. Love to hear that. So as you're thinking, I'm going to talk slower and slower so I don't feel bad about the first person I call on. Find the, I'm going to continue sharing my screen so that the questions are up, but find the reactions section in your Zoom panel and you should be able to raise your hand. Yep, great. And Zoom has a feature where if you unmute and then Sean found the heart. If you unmute, then go back on mute. It'll usually lower your hand for you within 30 seconds or something. But you can also go in and lower your hand. And just like Sean found the reactions, please emoji react to your peers and me at any time, all the time. This is how Zoom works. Is everybody finding the raise your hand feature? Looking good. Got a few more. Okay. As you all continue to get hands raised, looks like Nick, I thought I saw yours go up and then I think it went away. I talk with my hands and like, I think I have gestures turned off, automatic gestures turned off because it gets really funny when I'm talking. And then it'll be like, yay! I'm doing all the emoji reactions. Okay, great. So the first person on my screen is Serena Lau. So I'll have you go and then just popcorn it along.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena Lau. I prefer she, hers, and I'm a second year? Yeah, I'm a second year in grad school. It's a kind of a weird schedule for me because I started in the spring. So I was a first year last semester and now I'm a second year this semester. I'm on the UX Cognitive Psych program and I rot to recharge. Rot as in rotting. So like on the floor, on the bed, anywhere there's just flat surface, I'm just on the floor. And for recharging, I like to travel and just go outside and visit new cafes, see some sun, get some vitamin D. Yeah.
Nice. Will you popcorn it to someone else?
The next person I see on my screen is Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa, and I go by she, hers, and I'm also in the grad school program for cognitive psychology. And in the UX program, and I'm in my first year. And for fun, I would say I also like to go like for a walk. Usually, I'm not like a runner, but I love walking and I love working out. And yeah, so let's see. The next person, I'll say Ian.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Ian Robinson. I go by Ian. My preferred pronouns are he, him. I'm in the second year for the UX program. I'm actually in my last semester. And what I do for fun is gamer here and there, working out. But I think when I need to recharge, I just kind of just turn off my computer screen and kind of get away from it. And thankfully, it's in California. It's a nice weather, so you can walk around. And there's a lot more you can do rather than just staring at trees all day where I'm from. And popcorn gallery.
Hi, my name is Gauri, and my pronunciation for last name is Parnaik. I prefer she, hers. I am in my first year of UX cognitive psych program, and for recharge, I think I zone out, like in my own world for some time, and then I come back. Yeah, I'll popcorn it to Smriti.
Hi, I'm Smriti, and my last name is Nambudiri. That's how you pronounce it. My preferred pronouns are she, her. And I'm also in my second year in my last semester in the Applied Social Psychology program. And for fun, I like watching movies or watching TV shows usually. But if I want to recharge, I've lately really liked cooking, like just turning off my computer and just cooking something. So that's what I usually do. And I'll popcorn it over to Jack.
Thanks, Smriti. Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Bolello, and I prefer he, him pronouns. I'm in my second year of the UX program so also the last semester. And for fun, lately I've been playing music to recharge. So I play guitar, well, mainly bass, but also playing guitar poorly. And it's been a lot of fun to be slightly less bad at it as I have been practicing kind of consistently for the first time in forever. So yeah, I'll popcorn it over to Kathy.
Hi guys, my name is Kathy Sue. Pronoun she, her. I am also a second year in the UX program. Lately I've been for fun, I've been doing like museum hopping, but mainly like exploring like art museums in LA. So popcorn to Franklin.
I'm Franklin Chan. I go by he, him pronouns. This is my second year at CGU in the UX Masters program. And for fun, yeah, I just like to go for walks. I like to go on hikes with the hiking club and then just sleep. That's always a good way to recharge. And let's see. I'm gonna go with Rosie.
Hey guys, I'm Rosie, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm also a second year in the applied cognitive psychology, and I'm also doing a dual with public health as well. And hopefully this is my last semester. I don't want to do any more classes. And for fun, I like to bug my friends and yeah, make them go to places with me or just I also with Jack actually just reminded me. I also been playing the guitar because I want to build my calluses. I haven't played in 2 days, so they're going away. So yeah, I like to also go outdoors. I don't like to stay indoors too long. I get suffocated inside. Popcorn, Emma, Constable. Sorry.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Constable. I prefer she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior at Pomona, double majoring in cognitive science and English. And for fun, I really like to do arts and crafts kind of things. And I recently started learning how to do embroidery, so that's been pretty fun. I will popcorn it to Mark.
Hello, my name's Mark Reed. I'm also one of the second years in the UX cognitive psychology program. I've really been trying to think of a good one for what do I do for fun or to recharge. Honestly, I just play a lot of online chess, and that's kind of like how I zone out. I will popcorn it to Megan.
Hello everyone, I'm Megan Kite. I'm a second year UX student. And what I do to recharge, lately I took up crocheting, so I've made like a giant blanket already. And then I will take it to, let's do the other Emma.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm the other Emma, and it's Emma Mose. I prefer she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior at Pitzer studying human-centered design and data science. Something I like to do to recharge is try to find somewhere that I can't hear any humans or cars or anything built by humans, so going outside, and or doing something creative that I'm really inspired to do. And I'll popcorn to Malia.
Hi, I'm Malia, and my last name's Lou. I'm actually a second year student at Pitzer. I'm double majoring in organizational studies and human-centered design. Then I also just started my first semester in the grad UX program as well. And then something I like to do for fun, I like to draw and paint, so I also create a lot of designs for my e-commerce businesses that I'm running. So that's usually like a way for me to recharge. I'll popcorn it over to Elizabeth Ortega.
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Ortega and my preferred pronouns are she, her. I'm a sophomore at Pomona College and I'm double majoring in cognitive science and media studies. And a way that I like to recharge is I really like art. So I really like doing digital art and I'm an illustrator for POCO, which is an organization at Pomona where we take students on different trips of color and it's just like really fun. And yeah, I'll popcorn it to Elizabeth, my almost twin name.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lutus, and my preferred pronouns are she, her. I'm on my fourth year of undergraduate studies at Pomona, and I'm double majoring in cognitive science and French. And for fun, I like to play the harp, and I'm also a dancer. So yeah, and I'm corning to Hannah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Dow. I go by she, hers pronouns. I'm in my first year in the UX program at CGU. And for fun, I'm actually, I'll just show you guys right now. I'm making a crochet oh, you can't even see that, a crochet balaclava. Like these are like the stitches I've been making to like wrap around your head. And I'm making like a mask portion over it to wear like outdoors, but I realize summer is coming up, so I probably don't even need to wear this until like next year. But I like to crochet for fun when I'm not thinking about school and life. And then I will popcorn over to Sean.
Hi, my name is Sean Peterson. I also go by SP. I'm second semester, so first year UX. I like to snowboard, surf, or skate for fun, but I never get to do that. So mainly just hang out with my child and have some fun with her. Usually shooting videos of her and whatnot, just playing around.
You somehow muted mid-sentence.
Sorry, I let go of my spacebar mid-sentence.
No worries.
Nick.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name's Nick Montesino. My preferred pronouns are he, him. This is my second day of grad school. So I'm first year program. This is my first year in the program. I'm really excited. What I like to do for fun is I love doing Muay Thai. I at least train for 1 hour a day. We just introduced hard sparring, and we might be sparring some professional boxers later on. So it's a lot. It's really fun. It's really fun for me to do and practice and stay in shape. I'm gonna popcorn on to Yanzhen.
Hi everyone, my name is Yanzhen. I'm a first year at the CGU, and for fun is play with dog and stay with my dog.
Love it. Dog, cat, turtle, lizard, etc. and baby cameos during class are all welcome. Okay. Well, thanks for that. It was fun to get to know everybody a little bit. I definitely I'm thrilled to hear we have a band. Like I think every class we kind of come to this conclusion that we should form a band. So I'm happy to hear that that's going to happen again. Great. Okay, let's move along. I want to tell you a little bit about this course. And to do that, in every course I teach, I try to give you like, what are you getting out of this? How are you spending your time? What's the main point? What's the main takeaway? The big question. And the big question for this course is actually two things. First, how do you design based on research? How do you design with research in mind? And second, how do you research to support design? How do you do research to inform design? And the reason I have two questions is because this course is divided down the middle, essentially. The first half of the course is the interaction design, and the second half of the course is the usability testing. And it is a mode switch, let me tell you. So we're going to be in like more of a creative and psychology headspace, and then we're going to switch to a very analytical, measurement, experimental headspace. And all of this culminates in a final project that you're going to do, which we'll talk about a lot. So these are the two big takeaways, big questions. When you walk away 14 weeks from now, I want you to feel capable of how do I design with research and how do I do research to support design? And here's a little timeline, a little journey we're going to go through. So we're going to start off by just reviewing the different types of design in the typical workplace and the different approaches to design. Then we're going to talk about psychology principles in design and how to apply those. After that, we'll discuss the topic of information architecture. So when you arrive at some kind of digital experience, a website, a mobile app, etc., how you digest the information on the page is really important, right? Like what you see first, what you see second, and how you imagine that space exists in terms of how you would navigate and find your way in that digital experience. All of that is information architecture. So we're going to touch on that as well. Then we're going to move, it's going from blue to yellow, and the slides will go from blue to yellow accents. But then we're going to move into the usability testing side of the course. So we're going to start off with card sorting, which is a type of research to support information architecture, typically. We're going to go through all the different types of usability testing. Then we're going to deep dive into quantitative analysis using some basic statistics to evaluate the usability of different experiences. And we're going to talk about how to report on those experiences and the findings that you come up with. To be successful in this course, I recommend you have some familiarity with statistics, although many students have taken this course without a background in stats. If that's you and you want to stay in the course, I just recommend that you do the statistics pre-reading when I introduce it to you. I also have a little bit of a choose your own adventure when it comes to the stats that you're doing. So those of you who have advanced stats knowledge and really love it and want to push the boundaries, there's going to be a pathway for you to like really deep dive and approach the analysis of your homework assignments in a really sophisticated way. And for folks who are less familiar with stats, we're going to have a path for you that feels comfortable and encompasses the things that you'll be able to learn in the span of just this course without much statistical knowledge. So if you're concerned about that whatsoever, you can always pop into office hours, contact me via email or Slack, or do some pre-readings, which I have on the syllabus. So let me know about that. We have 2 textbooks. The Duck Book, again, for those of you who took my inclusive UX design course last semester, we're back in the Duck Book. You already read chapter 1 if you took that course. I'm going to stay like this. I like this view, my face in the book. So you already read chapter 1 if you took that course. You don't need to read it again. I do recommend you just skim it, and especially like the second half of the chapter, make sure you know that content, because the other chapters that you'll read in this book now will build upon that content. So back in the Duck Book, I love this thing. The second book, y'all, is Quantifying the User Experience with a D20 on the cover. So you'll notice mine's a little dog-eared. It's a little loved. I have read this thing cover to cover probably 5 times in the past 10 years. It's a dense book. It's a tricky book. Based on how students consumed the content the last time I taught this course, I've tried to give you enough reading that I've tried to hit the sweet spot so you're not overwhelmed with the amount of content you're consuming and you can really digest the content as we're moving through this book. But it's a tricky one. Don't be afraid to tell me that you're struggling with any concept in this book. Look at how much I have struggled with content in this book. So if at any time you want to talk about the reading or unclear about something that's happening in here, you're not alone. And please bring it up in class, because if you have the question, probably everybody does. So it's an intimidating book, but the fact that I've read it 5 times cover to cover tells you like it's a really good reference, really good book to have. So we're going to work through it together. Those are our 2 books.
Would you recommend getting a physical version of that book?
You know, that's you and your journey. This one, I mean, this is how I roll. Like I write all over stuff and I put in, I like the spatial, like, oh, I know that this information is kind of toward the front of the book and this information is kind of toward the middle of the book. So I really dig physical copies when I'm digesting something like this. If you are on the fence, I would get this one as a physical copy just because it is so dense. They're both available through the Claremont College's library, but they only have so many licenses. So if you all jump on Claremont College's library for the ebooks and you are all there at midnight trying to read it, it'll kick you out. Like it won't let you, check out the book because they only have so many licenses. To get around that, I have a crappy PDF copy of all the readings, so you can always just fall back to the backup copy. But they're both available at the Claremont College's library in ebook format. So if you're iffy about whether you want a physical copy, just like skim through the ebook and see if that's something you want. A lot of professors can get really, really hardcore about like, you need to buy the book or you need to do this or that. I'm very like, it's up to you and like what you want to take with you and how you like to maintain information for yourself. And whether that's ebook or neither of these come in audiobook format, unfortunately, but like audiobooks, I'm a huge fan of, or you want physical copies like me.
I guess I should have asked, do you think we should actually just buy the book? Because it seems like you said you used it several times over the last 10 years, so it definitely does come in handy.
Yeah, so the reason I even suggest you buy these is because like I have referenced both of them over and over again. That being said, if I'm real with you, the Designing Interfaces book is not going to hold up in the next 5 years because #AI. So I would say like the book will be more referenceable perhaps, but the world is changing and that's going to be a theme in this course talking about like how the world is changing. So you can choose to like, I like to invest in this one. I'm a stats person, so I reference it a lot, but like if that's not you, it doesn't offend me in the slightest. Thanks for the question. Any other questions on the textbook or on this timeline here? Okay, so I do want to quickly go through the syllabus. I have a link to this version in Canvas, but the homepage in Canvas is just the syllabus. I'll be updating both anytime I make updates. I just give you this version because I think it's a little more printer friendly. And honestly, this section down here is like easier to read in this format for me. So if you print these things, this is a really good printer friendly version. Otherwise, this is just the homepage of Canvas. And I want to call out a few things. So because I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, all my office hours are virtual. And I just give you the link to schedule on my calendar. So you'll jump in there and you'll schedule whatever time works. Please provide at least a few words of some kind of agenda so I know what to expect when you're showing up. But there's a 15-minute time slot. I'll actually just show this to you. These two are for CGU folks, and so there's a 15-minute and there's a 30-minute. Choose whichever one works and at whatever time works. I also have the CGU UX Slack workspace. And yes, I'm making you do this. So if you don't know what Slack is, it's just a messaging platform. So I'm making you do this because in almost every workspace, you have to maintain both Slack communications and email communication. And it's sort of challenging. So I'm making you get used to it in school. And look, all I post in here are announcements related to like free event or cool thing, or I'm ranting today. Sometimes that happens related to UX, right? And you can mute channels. You can also set notification preferences so that like you're never notified in certain working hours. And I suggest you do that, especially if you put Slack on your phone. Just make sure your notification preferences work with your lifestyle. And maybe that's no notifications, or maybe that's only during certain hours, or only when someone mentions you. So you can set all of that up in the settings. We have, if you'll notice on the left here, we have all of these different channels. You can add channels, browse the channels that are available. So you can join any channel unless it's private, which is usually just some project-based channel. And then you can direct message me or anybody else. And you can also just like post pictures of your cats in random. I really like that. I really like just, oh, you found a cool hike in the Claremont area, post it in random, right? So this is kind of how that goes. If Slack is new to you, I have a Slack etiquette, Slack tips document that I've shared with you in Canvas, so you can look at that. And I think I even give you instructions on how to set up your notification preferences, but it's just in settings. Does anyone have any questions about Slack? I'm a little faster to respond in Slack than I am via email. I don't know why email is just so cognitively taxing for me sometimes, but Slack, especially if you have a question that I can answer in a sentence, and maybe that's a good goal, is like, think about, can I answer it in a sentence? If not, like break it up into multiple questions. Usually if you have a quick question that I can answer quickly, it doesn't matter like where I am or what I'm doing. Like I'll be on the treadmill at the gym or something and like get back to you really quickly. But if you send me big paragraphs, then it starts to be treated more like email, and I have about a 36-hour grace period of response times. So that's how we do communications and such, and office hours. I have a Google Drive folder. This is just where I put any files, like those backup readings are all linked to Google Drive and such. So the slides are in there. So any files that you don't, that for some reason I didn't post on Canvas, can be found in the Google Drive folder. Let's see here. We talked about the textbook. I have a couple other like suggested materials if you're feeling super jazzed about UX. These are two good books you could get. They're both available through the Claremont College's library in ebook format. Attendance and participation. You are graded on your attendance and your participation. So cameras on, we do a lot of in-class activities that make you raise your hand and popcorn and do all of these things, right? So you'll also be in like online whiteboarding tools a lot and doing those kinds of activities. So participation, you get a grade. You can just have one free, you didn't show up, no explanation. Watch the recording of the course. All of the courses, all of these sessions are recorded, you know, put it on double speed or whatever, make sure you know the content that you missed. And make sure you arrive on time as well to get full points. If something happens, gosh, I'm not a monster. Just tell me what's going on. And if you need to miss class, or we'll do makeup work, whatever needs to happen. So keep in communicating with me as you know things that will affect your ability to attend class at all or on time. We also have weekly online discussions. These are, if you've been in a previous class of mine, these are going to be lighter weight than previous. So I don't have a deadline for you to submit your initial response, but you do have to reply to one peer. And those are always due. All assignments, everything that's due on Canvas is due 1 minute before class, 8:59 a.m. day of class. So those will always be due every week, right before class. We have 6 homework assignments, and then we have your final project. And the way I do this is your final project, I chunk into little bits. And so it's like homework 7A, homework 7B, homework 7C. And all of those little bits add up to be your final project at the end. And this is just me trying to keep you on track and also give you feedback at every single stage so you have the best like final project you can have. So we'll go through all of that when we discuss the final project. You'll also present on the last day of class about your final project for 5 minutes. And this is a new one for anyone who's been in my previous courses. We have a comprehensive oral exam before you melt. This is in the format of a mock interview, and it's 15 minutes of your life. So it's gonna be okay. What we're gonna do is you're going to sign up for a 15-minute time block. And this spans, like, I think you have 4 weeks to complete your exam. Your interview. So you're going to show up to Zoom, and I'm going to give you a job description as a study guide, but I can pull from anything in this course, and I'll just be asking you 3 questions as if it were a job interview that demonstrate your knowledge of interaction design and usability testing. And I'll be recording them because I'm going to give you the recording and give you a little bit of feedback on how you did as an interviewer, but that does not affect your grade. So if you're nervous about interviewing and such, this is just practice for that. And you'll only be graded on the actual words you say, like the transcript of what you say. So that will be your grade for the final exam, and you'll be forced to do this mock interview experience with me for, again, 15 minutes of your life. So some of you are happy with me right now. Some of you are not so happy with me right now. I get it, but it's a good experience. So we'll just pretend that you're applying for a UX job, and then I'll ask you a few questions. It's worth 5% of your grade. Does anyone have any questions on the final exam, the oral exam? Great. Here's the grading breakdown. Participation, homework assignments are a huge chunk. That's intentional. Online discussions, your final project is a huge chunk. However, remember, you're going to get feedback on every single part of your final project before you submit it at the end of class. I don't like grades as a sneaky, weird way to punish you for I don't know what. I really want your grade to be representative of the kind of performance you have. So that's kind of my grading philosophy. And of course, your presentation and then your itty bitty final exam. Because of my grading philosophy, I map the letter grades to an interpretation for the real world. So if you're getting B minuses or below, I'm telling you, you are not yet ready for an internship in UX. And then you'll see like may struggle with an internship. You're at kind of intern level performance once you hit B pluses. A minus, now we're starting to get into like you're an intern or maybe even an entry level professional. And if you're getting A's, you are meeting expectations for what I would expect you to do at work as a mid-level UX professional. Questions about grades. I sort of spaced to mention, but if you do have a question, you can raise your digital hand like we did with popcorn. You can also raise your physical hand. I'm always staring at all of you. And thanks for laughing at my jokes. And you can also drop things in the chat. I usually have the chat up as well. So if as you have questions, it's like sort of forming and you want to write it out, you can certainly do that too. And sometimes you can just unmute and ask, because we're all here. And if it's clear it's not 5 people trying to talk at once, then we're good. Okay, that's the whole syllabus. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I may make some minor changes to the specific content depending on how things go. So keep up to date a little bit on it, but due dates are pretty set in stone. I'm not going to throw anything at you without announcing it in class or sending you an email and a big Slack announcement or something like that. So, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else had this issue, but I tried to join the Slack workspace, but it said that the link is no longer active.
Ooh, my bad. Here, I'm so glad you tried. Let me grab a new fresh link and I will drop that in the chat. And if at some point, like if someone will just make sure that worked, someone who's joining, like Elizabeth, if you'll just follow up, like thumbs up that worked, that would be great.
Yes, that worked.
Okay, good. Ian?
So is there no luncheons or am I just being stupid and missed it?
No what?
UX luncheon?
Oh, so for those of you in the UX Master's Program, we have an online event series called UX Lunch. I am still working on the schedule for 2 reasons. One, I got a bunch of feedback from students via a survey last semester, and you all told me there were too many UX lunches. And I hear you. So I'm reducing the number of UX lunches, and I am just making sure that the topics that you asked for are represented in the schedule. So it's taking me extra time. I have like 2 topics that will definitely be covered. There will probably be a total of 4 UX lunches plus the spring UX mixer in person. But the topics that will definitely be covered are something related to the intersection of psychology and UX. I have a great speaker who I'm working with on that one. And then I'm going to give you everything you need to know about AI UX lunch. Yep, thanks for asking. I should post that in Slack. I'm gonna make a note. Like it's coming. I love how everybody else was like, that's okay. We don't need to go to those. It's a long day for UX master's students on Fridays because you have this class, whatever my class is, and then half the time you have UX lunches as well. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, feelings? Oh God, Jack, field placement as well. Yeah. Will someone, Jack, I'm gonna volunteer you, but you can like put this on. Will someone send me the syllabus so I know what days you're meeting and then I won't schedule, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great. Okay. So that's the syllabus. That's what we have in store. And the big picture for everything I do always is your life after school. So everything I do is very much designed to train you or prepare you or make you a good candidate for the job market. Everything is focused on you hypothetically building a UX portfolio so you can apply to UX internships or UX jobs. And when you get to that internship, you can confidently complete that internship and feel good about being in that space. And then, of course, transition to the actual career out of graduation. So everything I do, even making you do Slack, even making you export things as PDFs, everything I do is with these things in mind. If you ever wonder, ask me and I'll let you know how it maps. Slack etiquette, you can find it in Canvas. We've only ever had like minor problems, but don't overuse the general channel. Definitely post stuff, especially if it's just amusing, but don't like mention like at channel so everyone gets a notification at like 2 a.m. because you found a funny article about Elon Musk. Like, don't do that. And if you start to do that, trust that I will tell you, like, no more messages like that, please. I will give you that feedback. That's what the space is for. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a little lecture, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then we're going to take a break before we do an activity. So I just wanted to catch everybody up, make sure everybody's on the same page about what happens out in the world. And then once we do our activity, we're going to talk about like what is UX and how does it fit into everything. So some of you have heard a version of this before, but let it just be a refresher and feel really good if you already know this content a little bit. So we want to go through the product development process. Product is a term used in tech to describe any digital experience. So a mobile app is a product. A website can be a product. And we use this term really generally and confusingly. So that's something to be aware of. But product development or the creation of these digital experiences, sometimes they're also physical experiences. Like there's a hardware component that talks to an app, right? That'd be sort of like hardware and software experiences or application experiences. All of these things are products. So the product development process is the process by which we create any of these things. And generally speaking, it follows what's called the double diamond. In UX, in user experience, you'll come across the double diamond. It's the first thing just about everybody learns related to UX. And it's the stages of the product development life cycle or the product development process. So the idea is you first discover, then define, then you develop, and you deliver. And it's a diamond because there's this concept of like divergent thinking and then convergent thinking. So generating ideas and then narrowing those ideas down. And that's why it kind of does this diamond effect. This double diamond was originated in like 2004, 2005, long ago. And I think it was like some council, some design council or something that put this out. And it's just become sort of the basic doctrine for a lot of UX things. The idea here is that you discover or gather insights about a problem. Oh, I guess I should mention the first diamond. Wow, cool circle. The first diamond is often called the problem space, and the second diamond is often called the solution space. And space being like headspace or stage of a project. So we want to define the problem and then we want to define the solution. We don't want to start with a solution. We want to start with a human problem and then find a solution that meets the needs of that problem. So discover and define are in the problem space. This is where you explore and you gather insights about the problem. You uncover opportunities about the problem, usually through data. And that often looks like interviewing users or collecting data from potential humans who may be engaging with your product or digital experience. So you generate all of these, what's going on in the world, this concept of what's going on in the world. Then the define phase is getting really narrow about the problem. So we might find that the problem in the world is that many people who want cats can't have cats because they're allergic or they're in an apartment or something, right? This is a painful problem that exists in the world, and we could explore all the nuances around that problem. Why people feel they can't have cats or what's preventing people who want cats from interacting with cats. Then we might say, okay, we define that problem as there are people who want to interact with cats who can't for some situational reason. And we want to be able to solve that problem. So some ways, some solutions, now we'd move from the problem space into the solution space. Some solutions for that problem could look like cat cafes, fostering cats, having a friend who has a cat. Lots of different solutions to that problem I just described. So in the solution space, we develop whatever that potential solution could be, and then we build it and deliver and we test that solution. So if it's cat cafes, let's say that none of us had ever heard of a cat cafe. It was a brand new idea. It's like, this is kind of crazy. This is an idea that we have. Now we need to go kind of develop that idea and deliver it and see if it works. See if anyone actually wants to go to a cafe. So this space, this double diamond framework is important because in this course, we're going to be mostly in the solution space. We're going to be mostly in the second diamond. But in our interaction design, which is abbreviated IXD, in our interaction design, we may kind of be in like late stages of the problem phase, but the majority of things is like, I'm going to come at you with a defined problem and you're going to design a solution for that problem, or you're going to test existing solutions to see if they're actually meeting the needs of the people who have the problem. I have another course called UX Strategy, UX Design and Strategy, that's very much just in the first diamond. Some of you have already taken that class. So there's going to be a switch to now we are thinking about solutions and really refining and optimizing solutions. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings about the double diamond? How many of you have seen double diamond before? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Okay. So in the workplace, how this actually operates, how we move through the process that is the double diamond, is there are these different roles on a typical team. So if you're a really, really tiny startup, sometimes these roles break down. And if you're at a huge, huge enterprise business, sometimes there are tons of people in a single role. But I wanted to give you this concept of the roles that exist on a team. So we have a product manager, we have a product designer, or sometimes called a UX designer. We have a UX researcher, sometimes called a product researcher, usually called a UX researcher. And then we have a UI or a visual designer. These are some of our key players on a product development team. These are the people who create or come up with what the problem is and what the solution should be. And then we have all of our software engineers, often abbreviated as SWE, pronounced SWE, but you'll also see Eng or devs, all the developers. So you have some kind of team lead, and then you have the people working on the front end of the technical solution, the back end of the solution, and then sometimes you have like testers or people who are helping get that solution out into the world. So we have problem space and solution design, and then we have the folks who have to make that solution a reality. And there's this natural tension and negotiation that happens where product and UX people have big ideas, and then they talk to their technical counterparts, and the technical counterparts are like, guess what, that's not possible. Or guess what, that's going to take 3 years of development time. And that's part of the relationship that naturally happens, and it can be actually really great and productive. It's really common practice. You notice I cut some people in half. It's really common practice in a typical tech organization, but even outside of tech, to have teams organized this way. So these are called cross-functional teams. You'll have a product manager, a PM, a product manager, a designer, a researcher, and some tech folks. And they're all going to be on one area of the experience. So if we work for Amazon, we could have a cross-functional team whose entire job is just the homepage, just the login flow, just the how you search for a product on Amazon. And each one of these teams is just in their space. So that I have 2 here, but imagine Amazon probably has 95 of these, maybe more than that. At a small, medium organization, you could have like 6 of these teams. And what's interesting about this is all of these people actually report to their own manager. So product managers across all the teams report to the head of product. That's their manager. The UX people typically report to the head of UX or the head of design. Sometimes there's a research manager that's separate, depends on the size of the organization. And then all the technical people report to the head of technology, the CTO, the VP of engineering, the director of, etc. So they report to their own technical manager. And this is just an interesting thing to be aware of. When you enter into the workspace, you're going to find this pattern. So these people work together. If they're on site, they often sit together in their cross-functional teams but at the end of the day, they actually report to different managers. And this is because we want this like beautiful tension between the product manager should be coming from the place of, is this solution valuable? Is this going to kind of from a business perspective, is this going to work? Is this going to work for the business? The UX professionals are often from the user perspective or from the person using or adopting the solution, the customer. So they're coming and advocating for that perspective. And then the technical folks are all about feasibility, real world, can we do it? How long does it take? How many of you have seen this, have experience with this? 3, maybe 4 of you. Okay, 5, great. And I have just a little bit of the role breakdown here. It's really common in product and UX for like, maybe you start off as a designer and then you become a researcher, or maybe you start off as a researcher and then you become a product manager, or you start off as, there's a lot of interchangeability among these roles. And I give that information to you now because I guess as you're navigating these waters, if you find that you like certain tasks and you're not really seeing how that maps to product designer or UX researcher, you might find that you're actually more inclined for one of these roles than the other. Or you might start off as one, work 2 years as that role, and then realize like, oh, I'm actually more into being a product manager. So I'm going to go do that now. And that's very common, and those pathways are really easy to navigate. And they sort of map to the double diamond a little bit. So the product manager is very much like, what is the problem to solve? Usually the researcher is involved in that too. When it comes to generating, ideating, what's required to solve the problem, sometimes the designer gets involved in that, but that's usually driven by the product manager and the researcher. Then what are the potential solutions? Cat cafe, rent a cat service, have a friend who has a cat, all of those solutions. That's when the designer usually comes in and leads that. How could we solve the problem? And then engineers come in and talk about like, okay, given that that is the best solution to this problem, how do we negotiate a reality that actually works, that's feasible, that can become real in some way? Double diamond. The other thing, oh, Hannah, do you have a thought?
Yeah, actually, can you go back to the double diamond, the slide previous? This double diamond kind of reminds me of like the SDLC, the product development lifecycle. Instead of it being a diamond, I recognize it as like a circle instead, because it's like always, yeah, never mind.
You are 2 slides ahead, my friend. So has anyone seen this besides Hannah, or something like this? Some like circle within circle biz? Yeah, this is how most of us, to Hannah's point, this is how most of us like to think about product development, rather than the double diamond being this linear thing we move through. In reality, it feels so cyclical, and it feels like you take 1 step forward and 1 step back and 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, and you go back and forth a lot. So I'm really glad you bring this up. I threw this in here just as like a, hey, you'll see it this way. The double diamond is a starting place, and then your sort of understanding of this process gets more refined. And there are camps, as you imagine, like folks who love this particular diagram that I'm showing you, and other folks who love other circle things, and you'll see them all over the place when describing the product development process. Did you have any other thoughts on this, Hannah?
No, I think this kind of sums up everything I was going to, I guess, comment on.
Yes. I'm glad you recognized that these 2 things are the same but different, right? One other thing I want you all to be aware of is there are different specializations within UX. So you'll see UX researcher, UX designer, UX writer, UX strategist, and of course, like UX manager. So I'm just letting you know that if you're ever searching for job titles, you might find all of these, and one of these might really spark joy within you. Like you may love just the writing. Like, how do we write good content that actually serves the people who are consuming that content? And so you might actually want to be like a UX writer instead of a a UX designer or a UX researcher. So something to be aware of. I think that's a good time. This is a good time to take a break. So I want to do 10 minutes and cameras off, go get a drink, like get up, move around, stretch, all of that stuff. We'll come back at 10:20. How's that sound? Okay, see you then. Welcome back. Okay, thoughts, ahas, questions that developed during the break? Anything? No, Dani, I wasn't even thinking about stuff. Thanks. I was trying to think about nothing and recharge. You're all gonna get your hobbies back one day. Serena?
I was thinking this when you were talking about the double diamond earlier. I was like, it's like except for the cases in startups, UX researchers nowadays hardly get the time or hardly get the opportunity to go from from the problem space to the solution space. I feel like we're always like jumping in the middle of the problem to the solution space because they're like evaluating if the product is actually needed in the market or how it fits in the market and developing a solution based on that instead of ideal like coming up with the problem and then going to fix the problem. Or is that just like
I mean, you're spot on. And anyone who's worked in this space, I think anyone who's worked in this space is right there with you. How often do you think you actually come into a company? This is one of the criticisms of the double diamond at all is how often do you think you come into a company like, hello, welcome to Netflix, your first day as a UX researcher or something. And they're just going to say, okay, well, go find the problem to solve and then go create whatever you need to create to solve the problem. Like that's not really how it works. You usually show up, you join one of those cross-functional teams. Maybe their space is the like discover or something. Like I'm thinking on Netflix or any streaming service, when you jump into the platform, the first thing you see is like those top recommended things for you. So how those are displayed, maybe that's all the team works on. And it's not like the solution, I mean, the solution already exists. You're just refining little things about it. It's really common to not get to start in the true problem space for most things. Even in startups, you're usually joining because there's a founder or like some entrepreneurial person who has an idea, and that idea is usually a solution, not a problem. It's usually like, I want to build an app that does this thing, right? And then it's actually researchers who have to pull them back into the problem space. Like, well, what is the problem in the world you're trying to solve? And how will your solution meet that problem? And is that problem even very prevalent out there in the world? Or is it just kind of like a you thing? Yep. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a mature thought to have, like, that this isn't the way it works. And I think that's why people kind of like the circles within circles, because it feels very like chaos and circular, boots on the ground.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because in the beginning, this circle, I saw it for the first time and it didn't really make any sense to me. But when you and Serena talked about this process, it kind of does now.
Yes. So like this little circle of like, and then we experiment, and then sometimes we find out that we're building the wrong thing, like we have the wrong idea of what the problem is. I can't tell you how often like someone in leadership will decide like, I think customers hate that. You should go figure that out. Go figure out whether customers hate the thing I hate. And then you go to customers and it's like, they actually don't. They actually don't hate that thing. Okay, well now we don't have to build a solution because we never had a problem in the first place. So very real talk, yes. Nick, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, okay, in terms of like getting into the field and getting a job and stuff, like, which is like easier, like positions, like ranking them like easiest to hardest, like in terms of like getting experience in or like working on a team. Like, I don't know, like, are you more likely to get more work as a researcher than you are as a designer? Or like, are there more opportunities as a writer than there are like a manager? Like, I don't know. It's kind of, I guess it depends, right? I guess.
Well, it's a good question. I think most people like that's kind of in your mind to some extent, right? The answer is it is exactly what you don't want the answer to be, which is the more you specialize. So I think there are a lot of people who call themselves product designers or UX designers. There are a ton of people who call themselves that. And there are also a ton of jobs, relatively. Tech is having a moment, if you all didn't notice over the past 2 years, but relatively, there are a lot of UX design jobs, and there are a lot of UX design applicants. Researchers, it's like, okay, there are fewer jobs, but there are also fewer applicants. So like the actual ratio of like the number of researchers to the number of jobs is a lot more friendly sometimes. Like it's a little bit easier to get a job as a researcher if you're a trained researcher, because there are just fewer, like there's less competition essentially. And then again, UX writer, that job description is really hard to find that job description sometimes, but there are also only like a few people who call themselves a UX writer. So you're only up against 20 other people instead of 100 other people or 1,000 other people. So yeah, there's no easy path. And because of that, I would say it's best to reflect on your own strengths, your own likes and dislikes, and be really honest with yourself about what those are. And then just lean really heavily into what I always call your superpowers. And those are the things that you're naturally good at and the things that you really like doing. So leaning into your superpowers will help you find which path, which is such a good segue to our activity, which is along these lines. So great question, Nick. Did anyone else have any other thoughts or questions? Okay, so just to get you thinking along the lines that Nick's already thinking, and probably by the nodding in the room, many of you are thinking this too. It's like, where do I end up? Where do I belong? What fits with me? And one of the things I want to do, I was going to have us do this on like a Miro board, but as I was kind of putting it together, I don't know, I'll let you all vote. Like if you just have a piece of paper, you could do this. I'm going to give you a series of questions and you're going to answer them on a Likert scale. So you can either do that in Miro or you can just like grab, does everybody have like a physical sheet of paper? Gosh, I can't believe I'm even asking. Oh, good on you. Yeah. Okay. If not, you could use, I guess, the chat or like a text file or something to just jot your answers down. I'm going to give you 15 statements. And for each statement, I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 5. And I'm going to write this one down actually. So, well, let's use a text box. 1 is not at all like me. And 5 is very much like me. So for each of these statements, you're going to give it a score. And you don't have to write down the statement because I'm going to give them to you in order. And then I'm going to tell you which ones to add up and kind of like score yourself. You ready? Seeing some nods. Everyone looks good. Okay. The first statement. Friends describe me as artistic. Number 2, things should be functional and beautiful. Number 3, I enjoy feeling empathetic. Claude wrote these, so they're not always greatest grammar and stuff. But, empathy, someone would describe you as empathetic. Number 4, I like creating visuals to represent ideas. Number 5, I take criticism well. Number 6, I like to oversee complex projects. Number 7, I am good at presenting to large groups. Number 8, my friends would call me persuasive. Number 9, I enjoy understanding how different pieces fit together. Number 10, I am organized and I write things down. 11, I enjoy listening to the needs of others. Number 12, I have an insatiable curiosity around why. Number 13, I enjoy leading group discussions. 14, I take an analytical approach to solving problems. And number 15, the last one, I'm good at planning out my process. Okay, so what you're going to do, the first 5 you'll add together, and that's your first score. The second 5 you'll add together, that's score 2. And the third 5 you'll add together, and that's score 3. Okay, so one thing I want to say, this is all on a scale from 3 to 15. And your first score is kind of stereotypical designer. Your second score is stereotypical product manager. And your third score is stereotypical researcher. I say stereotypical because obviously this is a flawed scale and everything like that. But this is just like some of the general things that will help you indicate which of these you're more strong in and less strong in. And you can be strong in more than one. You could be very strong in all 3. In fact, if like your overall score is a 12 or above, I would call that quite strong. So there could be multiple spaces that really map to you. Hannah, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I found something interesting when I calculated my scores. I got the same score in each category, and I don't know what that meant until you explain it. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but then I was kind of confused why they're all kind of the same for me.
Yeah, did anyone else find that they had two or all three were kind of similar?
All three.
Mark, Nick, Gori, all my friends. You are, I had a great mentor once tell me, you're doomed or destined. You can think about it as you're doomed or destined, right? Which is like, so you're going to have to decide what you like, but you may have an affinity for all three of these spaces. And it's totally okay. I would put myself in this category, and I have held the title of designer, product manager, researcher, analyst, manager, strategist. I've held all of these titles at some point in the last 10 years. And you can do that. I'm living proof you can do that. And many people I know are living proof you can do that. There's a great book, like you all have time to read. Gosh, no. Do your like bed rotting and stuff. I support you. But there is a great book if you want to read it one day. It's called Range, I-N-G, Range. And it's about people who are generalists and the strengths of being a generalist. So if you ever want a pep talk, if you're like a Renaissance person or like jack of all trades, right? Or someone who kind of does everything and likes to be doing lots of different types of activities, a good indicator, I don't mean to point fingers, but a good indicator is like if you have a double major or a major and a minor and they're like complete opposite things, right? Or like some of your projects are that like scientific and some of your projects are like something else. So those are indicators that you may be more of a generalist versus a specialist. And that's just something to know about yourself, I think. Mark, you're not doomed. I like that you're destined to be a generalist.
I can never decide what to do ever for
I
anything.
know. It's very hard. Sometimes like generalists, it's like we kind of wish not everything was so cool, because then we would like have some directional, like clear affinity to something. But the thing is, in life, for everyone, whether you found that you have one of these that's really strong or two of these that are really strong, what's great is like you can plan all you want, but your journey, opportunities are just going to happen at you, and you're going to take them or you're not going to take them. And you can't really anticipate what those opportunities are going to be. So sometimes you just sort of, your path evolves along the way, or like you build the plane in flight, right? It's usually a bad term, but I don't know. When I started my career, I had all these plans for how it was going to go. I certainly didn't plan to have like every job title under the sun and end up being an independent contractor. That was not in the plan. And I interviewed once, and they asked me like, so what's your 5-year plan? And I laughed in the interview. And I said, well, 5 years ago, I thought I was going to be a neuroscientist. So what I found out about 5-year plans is life laughs at your 5-year plan. Yes. So if you are nodding, you've already had one of these moments in life. So yes, know yourself. Everything will happen. I did get the job, and I made a friend. One of the interviewers is now one of my dearest friends. But that was a gamble, and we don't always want to take gambles, folks. But yeah, kind of a funny thing. Great. Okay, any other thoughts or epiphanies, or anyone have a strong affinity for one of these surprises? Ian, what was it?
I guess you can probably guess, but designer, I guess I got a 20. And then
Yeah.
PM, I got a 12, which makes sense because I don't like managing. So.
I'm glad you just said 20. Like, I don't know where I came up with 15. That would be if it was a 3-point Likert scale. So 25, right?
Okay, thank you. I was tripping the whole time for like 10 minutes. Like,
nope, that was a me. That was a me thing. I think, yeah, 20 is quite strong. Oh, y'all are great. I mean, it's charming that you all question yourselves, but no, this was a me problem. So I would say strong is like 20 or above. That's quite, then you're getting 4s, 4 out of 5s on most questions. 24, what were you?
I think I got that one for project manager, but I got 20 for the other two as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So you're strong in all of them. Gori, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
What's funny is sometime. Like for some of the question that you ask, I was like, yeah, I'm good at it, but I don't really like it.
Yes. Ooh, and that is such a good thing to start to navigate for yourself. Oh, good. 25 as a researcher, Nick, you're doomed or destined. Maybe that's not the best advice I should be passing along, but I liked the phrase. I liked it because it's in your control how you perceive some of these things. Yes. Yeah, that's how someone's gonna put that on a t-shirt and give it to me, and then I'm gonna like walk around going, oh, should I have said that in class that day? Great. Well, the other thing I will say is when it comes to these actual roles like designer, product manager, and researcher, depending on the organization, they are such a Venn diagram. Like, and especially the smaller you go, the more this area overlaps. So if you're at like a tiny 20-person company, you'll be all three of them, whether you want to be or not. But I think there's a lot of natural overlap between like product manager and designer and product manager and researcher. And then of course, like lots of designers do research. So if you are having that feeling, it's just going to be about finding the role. I would actually start looking at job titles for internships and things like that in any one of these categories if they were all strong for you, and just realize that there may be more or less of an intersection depending on the company. So like in the interview, kind of ask them about what are the roles and responsibilities of this person. Great. Well, thanks for playing this little game with me. Like I said, all the items were courtesy of, in this case, Claude, which is Anthropic chatbot. Okay, I want to touch on definitions. Again, just like shared context, everyone's starting off on the same place. And I think we should just sort of talk about what interaction design is, because it is the title of the course, and how usability testing fits in at a really high level. So I want to take a few minutes to do that. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about tools, and we're going to go through your first homework assignment. So what is interaction design, or IXD, as it's often abbreviated? In life, sometimes things are hard to define. And you know how humans are. We all get talking and we all have language, and then the language starts to change depending on context, and people have different definitions in their minds, and sometimes we never really align on what the underlying definition is for something. So what is social media? Like what apps? We could probably agree on a few, right? But then there are some things that start to blur the lines. And then the exact definition of like what is social media starts to get a little bit fuzzy. This is true for UX, user experience. So I have the most common categories here, but the pre-read, I think that I supplied you in the email that I sent, it's also on Canvas. Completely optional to read that. But if you're feeling lost, good idea to just skim through that thing. It's meant for like some like kind of professional audiences, not scientific literature or anything. So it should be a pretty quick read, an easy skim if you want to visit that for more on the definition of interaction design. But the idea is UX design is typically, the history of UX design came from a guy named Donald Norman who worked for Apple clear back in like 1997. And he came up with this term user experience design or user experience. And the idea was whether I'm on my phone or my desktop, whether I'm in an app or on the website version of whatever it is, all of this is my experience. So I have a weather app on my phone, but I may also get the weather from the web, and my weather experience can differ depending on what modality I'm on. But all of these things need to be thought through when we're designing a digital experience. So that's how UX was born, is we need the human at the center of all of this, not the technology, but the human problem, the human need needs to be at the heart of all of this. And we're designing these tools and avenues and channels to meet this human need. So user experience is kind of the umbrella term. And within user experience design, there are these other terms. So interaction design is behaviors. It's how something behaves when a person supplies an input. So every form field you fill out, every time you type in the chat here, every button you click, these are interactions. It's when the human and the digital collide. it's that moment. And all of these need to be considered, not just how, as in, is it going to be a swipe or a tap or a double tap or a long press, or what that behavior from the human is going to be, but what is the behavior that's going to happen from the system? And how do we make sure that the person's expectations align with what the system does? That's interaction design. And the reason it's separate or a special subcomponent of UX design is because when you start calling people designers, everyone starts to think it's because they make things pretty. It's because they're focused on aesthetics. And aesthetics are very important. I don't want to downplay that at all. Aesthetics are very, very important. And they actually contribute to our expectations as people that we have for different things. You arrive on a website, it's ugly, it's less trustworthy, it's less likable. You perceive it as less user-friendly right out of the gate, even before you've touched anything, if it's really ugly or looks outdated. So aesthetics really matter. And when it comes to aesthetics, you'll often hear the phrase visual design. Sometimes you'll hear UI versus UX, user interface versus user experience. But really what these terms are referring to is there's the look and feel of something, and then there's the way it behaves. Behaviors are interaction design, and the look and feel is more of the visual design. Some of you have also maybe seen this analogy where you can think of a skeleton, then the skin. So the skeleton is like the UX, the skin is the UI, and that determines all the aesthetics. And then how the body moves around, what dance it does, is the interaction. I don't love that analogy. It kind of breaks down an interaction, because I might even say like muscles are the interaction. I'm not sure. But I think the difference between like skeleton versus the exterior, like skin or clothes or what have you, that's a good distinction between UX and UI. Product design is an old term turned new term that encompasses both UX and UI. And it usually, the reason why people prefer product design is because the original UX was, you're going to think about this entire experience, end to end, front to back, the whole thing. And these days, especially at larger organizations, you're not thinking about the whole thing. You're thinking about just one piece of it. So folks are enjoying saying product design because it limits your scope. It means you don't have to think about like the ad someone sees on social media that they clicked on to then get to the landing page of the website to then make a purchase on the next page. So you're not thinking about the entire experience. You're just thinking about the product, or whatever product means. But one key feature of product design is they do want you to have interaction design capabilities. So be really good at the behaviors, be really good at the skeleton, but they also want you to have some look and feel visual design skills. So kind of a messy thing, lots of visualizations like that, like this one that you'll find in the world, and these will make more and more sense the more real world contexts you come across. On the research side, we have similar categories. So we have usability, we have accessibility and inclusion, and then we have strategic or foundational. And I'll zoom into some of those later, but from the design perspective, I want you to be thinking a little bit, your book will help you do this, but I want you to be thinking about like, what's the difference between like the skeleton and the look and feel, the aesthetics? Where does the button go? Is the button blue or green? And I threw this one in here just because people have been trying to map this space for years, and it's just hilarious. I mean, it's changing all the time. No one can agree on anything. You notice this is copyright 2009, folks. Oh my gosh. So the reason I'm throwing this in here is because it is okay to ask. You do not need to have the same definition of interaction design as somebody else, and you probably don't. So if you're uncertain of something in an interview, in the workplace, in class, let's talk about it, because these definitions shift depending on context, and it doesn't make you look like you don't know what you're talking about to ask questions about the fundamentals here, because it's really messy. One thing we can agree on for this class is that this is the interaction process. So when we're thinking about interaction design, we're thinking about the user or the person using the experience. What do they sense? What do they perceive? What do they expect? How do they behave? What's the feedback? And then how do they learn? And that's the interaction process that we're going to be hitting on. So we'll talk about like you sense and perceive, you see the button. It's a blue square. You perceive it as clickable because squares, rectangles, and things are often buttons, and this has a little bit of a drop shadow, so you know that it's a button. You expect when you hit the button, it's going to do something. Then you click the button, then it does whatever it actually does, whether that meets your expectations or not, and then you learn based on that interaction. So this is the way you can kind of think about interaction design, is making sure that what I'm perceiving as a user and the expectations that are forming in my mind causes a certain behavior. The feedback aligns with my expectations, and then I learn where I need to learn whenever you break my expectations. Questions or thoughts on this? Kind of fun to think through. For those of you who haven't taken a UX course yet, this is going to change the way you perceive like every single digital thing you come across. You're going to be that friend that like the friend who's really into film, and then you watch any film with that friend and it's like, did you see how the cinematography and the camera pan and it's like, no, I didn't see that. You're going to be that friend only for mobile apps and websites and every interface. So once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. And this is a lot of fun to think about because it's fundamentally like human psychology, right? It's behavior and it's thinking, it's cognition, and then it's also manifesting in every area of our lives. Okay, well, that was just me venting some excited energy. On the research side of things, so we're going to go through this interaction design half of the course. Then we're going to hit usability testing. And for those of you who have taken a research course with me before, you're going to see a couple of things that are new. The first thing is, in the world, there are different types of user research. And I put these three, I put these three down here: usability, accessibility, and inclusion, strategic and foundational, as like these general buckets things can fall into. But there are so many more nuances here. I think the big questions are, when it comes to strategic and foundational, like, what is the problem and who is the person who's experiencing the problem? These really fundamental first diamond questions. Usability is, given this solution, can people use it? Or if I need to design a solution, how can I design it so that people can use it? People can access the value you're supplying them. Accessibility and inclusion is more about who can use it, who can access the value. Can everyone access the value? Should everyone access the value? So in academia, if you have a psych background or a research background, you're trained to think like this. We talk to you about qualitative and quantitative, which is the type of data. Is it words or is it numbers? Qualitative and quantitative. And then we talk to you about behavioral and attitudinal. So like what people do, what you can observe, and then what people say, what people self-report, how people think. And then you'll see a bunch of methods. You'll see like user interviews or focus groups, right? And you'll see methods mapped to essentially these two axes. If you've taken a course with me in UX before, this is probably a good depiction of your mental model of UX research right now. I want to add a layer to this because it's a very academic approach, and in the workplace, everything is more like this. So you have generative research, and then you have evaluative research. And no matter which one you're in, you can have quant or qual data, and you could have any method you could ever imagine. Survey, interview, focus group, some kind of unmoderated behavioral experiment. All of these can be either generative or evaluative, but there are some methods that tend to hang out in one and tend to hang out in the other. Generative, you are trying to gain a deeper understanding. You are trying to generate information about the context, understand user needs, behaviors, and motivations. And this usually happens in the beginning of a project. Evaluative is collecting data to then decide, did we meet our goal? Are we achieving success? Does it work? You're evaluating the solution. And just to add confusion, lots of people use lots of terms to mean this spectrum. So there's more generative stuff and there's more evaluative stuff. And you'll hear words like generative, foundational, discovery research, formative research. You'll hear all of these terms. And then you'll hear evaluative or tactical or solution. Or I crossed out validation because it's used really, really frequently, but it's a term I don't like. I like evaluate, not validate. Yeah, and the three of you just totally saw why. We don't validate solutions, we evaluate solutions. Yeah, you'll get opinions about this if you don't already have them. But generally speaking, what should we do? How should we do it? Build the right thing, build the thing right. And people are going to use all these words to be the blue one and all these words to be the green one, but it's going to be like, what should we do? How should we do it? And in this class, most of the questions are going to be build the right thing. Build the thing right. How should we do it? The green space. And if this is looking like double diamondy, it's totally because it is. Okay, so that's kind of high level definitions and such. You can reference these slides. We'll keep coming back to these concepts, and these concepts will also be present in your reading. So if this is still kind of you could do the pre-reading that I suggested. You can hang in there. You can start chipping away at the pre-reading, or you can Google some stuff. Have a conversation with ChatGPT, something like that. Okay, any like burning thoughts or questions here? Okay, tools. In this class, we're using a tool called Figma. Figma is the #1 digital design tool in the industry. So probably in the world. Figma's huge and everybody uses it right now. So that's what we use. There's a steep learning curve, but I've already shared with you some introductory tutorials, and I don't expect you to become a Figma wizard in this course. I'm just trying to get you familiar with this standard tool. So I make you do things in Figma, and that's how that is. But I wanted you to know there are other tools out there, and here are some of them that are really common. You'll see these on job descriptions and stuff. Figma is the big one, and we're going to create most of our stuff, like your final project and things like that, in Figma. Because Figma is the industry standard, there are millions of resources on Figma. There are so many YouTube videos. Figma itself has this nice laid out like knowledge community. You can find just about everything you want to find on the Figma website, but if that format isn't like working great for you, find a YouTuber whose personality you gel with and just watch a few videos on YouTube while you're like eating breakfast or something. Any thoughts or feelings or reactions to Figma? Okay, because your first homework assignment is going to be using Figma, unless you have extensive Figma experience, in which case I give you an alternate path because I view it as just a little bit more valuable. But most of you are going to be using Figma. Homework 1 is creating an About Me page. So in UX portfolios, which are typically a personal website that you have, but sometimes just like a PDF of a slide deck that you keep. In UX portfolios, the first page you land on, the first thing you see is usually a little About Me blurb. It's maybe an image, sometimes a professional image of the person, and then like a tagline or a little summary or both. And then additionally, some people create an entire About Me page that goes into more depth of like, how did I arrive at UX and what is my journey and that sort of thing. For this assignment, I allow you to create either one of those things. So you're either creating like this brief version that I'll show you examples of that's at the top of your homepage on your UX portfolio, or you're creating like an extensive About Me page. And I'm just leaving that to you because if you're building a UX portfolio, do whichever one you want feedback on. So you're going to create an About Me page. It has to include your name. It has to include some kind of little tagline or summary. And I want you to challenge yourself to avoid cliches and to get really specific with that tagline or summary. I'll show you some examples, and maybe while I show you, I can think of my like 5-word one. Then you can just give a little brief paragraph. If you're doing the version that's your homepage, you might have 2 sentences and that's it. And then you're going to upload it to Canvas or supply the live website URL. And I'm going to make you all comment on each other's. following a critique format. So you're going to give feedback to your peers on their About Me page. Great. Let's look at some examples. So here's, I think, yeah, this one's clickable. So I'm going to actually, let's go. These are random people I found. Like, I don't know. These are just random people I found. These are real and I did not get permission, but their stuff is publicly available. So here's a guy who is obviously really good at animation and like he has an embedded video in his website. I don't expect any of that from you. But imagine this is just like an image. Here's his name. He's a product designer. He throws in some logos because he's worked for these well-known companies. And then you'll notice, hello there, my name is Julius. I'm a product designer at Flexa. I live in Berlin. I grew up on the internet and I love computers and software. In my 10 years of experience, I've designed user interfaces and experiences, planned, supported, and implemented features and roadmaps, led cross-functional teams, we know what those are now, at companies like Pitch, Microsoft, and Native Instruments. And then he has a video saying like, hey, I'm looking for a job. And then he says, no, just kidding, I'm not. This is a bit lengthy, and I actually think his paragraph's a tad generic. I want more out of this really prime real estate. He is putting forward his past experiences, these logos. That's his biggest strength here, and he's putting that forward. But I think he could actually unpack for me like why he's special, what he's good at, because this is a little bit generic. Overall, though, this is a very standard design. You've got an image, you've got the name, the role, he's got some contact information. Great. Another example of a random person. So this is an actual, yes, this is an actual About Me page. So her homepage is actually this, which is name, a tagline. I'm a Colorado-based product designer, illustration moonlighter, and design community facilitator. Love it, not generic. Love it. Read more about me, check out my resume, dig into my design process in the work below. Great. So you could choose to do that section of your portfolio. You could also choose to do an actual About Me page like she's done here. So she says, collaborative design systems, sweating the details, and visual storytelling are my jam. And then she goes on to say a little bit more about her. And then she says, read an article I wrote, check out my resume, or she allows you to contact her. Let's chat. So you'll see here, she talks about a little bit about her history. So I supported the enterprise products team at Meta by crafting new features and designing up a storm. I moonlight as a freelance illustrator and help run Ladies That UX Denver. So she's really just kind of like giving us these highlights, this like really rich story, but it's super concise, which I love. When I'm not on the design grind, you can find me hiking or camping, planning my next big trip, speeding through sitcoms while illustrating. Love it. Just enough personal detail keeps it professional, but this is not a dating profile. So she doesn't go too in depth about her hobbies. So I love this one. I have some like other, just like examples. Some of these I've dropped the link to, some of these I haven't, but you can see like people do this in different ways. This person has a timeline. That's kind of cool. About me, paragraph. This person incorporates more imagery. I bet they're a photographer or something. So you can see how you can take this approach however you want to. For those of you who have experience in Figma and you have a portfolio site, no reason to jump into Figma and design something. Do it right on your website if you want to. So make it your live page. I'm going to challenge you to like rethink whatever's on there today. If you think it's strong and you're going to stand by it, you can submit it. But what I want is for you to try to take it to the next level. Try to avoid cliches, right? Try to make sure that this thing is really packing a punch when it comes to a hiring manager's reading it and wants to work with you now. So you can submit the URL, or most of you will go to Figma and actually create this just in a canvas. And I recommend that the canvas be the ratio of a slide, which is like 16:8 or something. So you'll create a slide essentially in Figma where you'll do this. Let's look at the description really quickly together. One thing I share with you is like a portfolio is meant to convey two things. You're competent and you're likable. You can do the job and I want to do the job with you. That's my philosophy. Take it or leave it. but hiring managers often come at this as show me you're capable and show me I want to work with you. And I think that it's a tricky balance because there's actually like a little bit of a dichotomy here where the more competent you seem, sometimes the less likable you seem. And the more likable you seem, sometimes the less competent you seem. So there's this balancing act. And we have this like fundamental bias as humans to kind of put people in one category or the other, but you really want to strike the balance between the two. Like I said, you can do either that very brief tagline and one sentence summary at the top of the page, or you can create an about me page from scratch that's like, hi, I'm Dani Green. I've done this for 10 years and I specialize in this and that. And I love education. And I also have finger puppets on my desk. So whatever that looks like. It's a turtle. Okay, so that's Quali, the qualitative turtle. He doesn't make a cameo in this class, but so you could do either approach. The actual assignment export as a PDF if you create a slide in Figma. And if you want to just send me the URL or send your peers the URL, that works too. I have requirements. You need to include your name, a unique, succinct tagline or one sentence summary. In some way, convey the scope of the work you are seeking. So that guy Julius said, hi, I'm Julius, a product designer. It's like, that's the type of job I'm seeking. Avoid cliches. If I could swap out your name with any other student's name and I wouldn't know the difference, it's too generic. And please avoid the phrase, I want to change the world. That is the most generic UX phrase. Start with a canvas that's the same ratio as a slide, and then be thoughtful about your font, your color choices, your spacing. It should look polished and professional. I give you some tips too, like people often include a professional photo. You can try one of those headshot AI generators if you want to. They're hilarious, but also oddly not too bad. Be careful not to be too silly. Sites that are really colorful and artsy have a tendency to look unprofessional. So we're cranking up the likability score, but you might be cranking down the competence score. Some of you are going to be able to do that very well, and I encourage you to play, especially if this isn't your first rodeo. But, you know, it's a double-edged sword. When in doubt, go minimalist. Looks more professional. Work with a chatbot to get that tagline really succinct, and don't go too personal. Stick to the journey that is relevant to your work experience, but I don't mind a good story either. And see week 1 slides, for example. Does anyone have any questions on the assignment here?
I have a question. If you feel like you scored like high in all of those categories and you're still kind of figuring out what you're seeking, like how do you recommend we word that?
Yeah, what a thoughtful question. I would say most of you may choose to include the fact that you're a student right now, like a graduate student in a program. And that's a great approach to say like, hey, I really enjoy solving complex problems in the healthcare space. That could be a product manager, that could be a UX researcher. But if you can get specific about what you think your superpowers are, whether it's like, I have one friend, she calls herself the Mary Poppins of UX. That's like her tagline, because she flies in, like she drops in and she cleans up the mess and then she flies away because she's a consultant. So you can get creative with what that tagline means, but it just should kind of encapsulate your professional strengths, like what you bring to the table that's unique. And then in your kind of explanatory sentence or paragraphs, you can talk about the kinds of tasks that really light you up, or the industries that really light you up. And that will satisfy the what kind of work are you looking for me. Great question. Feel free to read each other's. I mean, you're all going to respond, but feel free to like swap and edit for each other, or do that with a chatbot or your roommate or your family member, whoever. And you will submit this on the discussion page. So you'll post your about me, either a link or the PDF, and then you're going to be commenting. And I ask that you start your comment with, I like, I wish, I wonder, I worry that. I wish I knew more about your background in psychology. I wonder if having SpongeBob SquarePants all over the place is a little unprofessional. I worry that, right? So try that out. Provide at least one specific suggestion for improvement. So like, I wonder if you change the copy from A to B, if that's a little stronger. Or I wish that I saw more of this, and maybe you could do that by just adding one sentence. So getting really specific with your feedback is helpful. I do want to warn you, so everything's due the minute before class, but do you see the problem that could happen here? Yeah. So if you post your About Me page the morning of class, then like everyone's going to be scrambling to comment on everyone's. So if it's almost a penalty if you're early, but then you get more feedback. I guess that's the thing. Plus you just get like, Dani thinks you're great because you turned it in early. Although, as everyone knows, I do not judge. Deadlines are deadlines for a reason. I don't care if you do things in the middle of the night, the day before, the morning of. Doesn't bother me a bit when you do your stuff. If you ask me a question morning of, you might not get a response, but I don't mind at all if you are doing the assignment the morning of. If that's how you roll, if that's what you're confident with, if that's how life shook out for you this week. But the deadline is the deadline. Okay, other thoughts? So try to post with, 24 hours in advance so you can get feedback and give feedback, my recommendation. Okay, that's everything. I'm going to stick around for 5 or 10 minutes just in case anyone has questions. And I think there are a couple of you I wanted to speak with. So I'm going to stick around for that. Otherwise, we are done for the day. If you have questions, Slack me, email me. It's a little slower, but I'll get to it. And enjoy your first assignment. Happy to have you in class. Bye, have a good Friday. See ya.
Thank you.